So let's go on to Tuesday, the first, page 8, the first day of school. You know, of course, you remember the first day of school. Basically, you come, the teachers do attendance, and you get paper about lunch programs and all that kind of thing. That's what the first day appears to be, right? But for you, it's a very different thing, okay? The first day of school is your first opportunity to make a first impression or a good impression, right? So it's an important day, okay? Let's take a look at the top of the page there. The key idea: a well-managed class is predictable and task-oriented, okay? So predictable means that we build on each day, okay? So that when the kids come in tomorrow, they know that they're going to do, that a lot of what they're going to do is going to be built on today. So every day they get more and more familiar with it, and it becomes what Harry Wong calls a procedure or a routine, okay? Let's take a look at the 3 overall goals that are there. What I'm going to ask you to do is pick a word out of each one, out of each of those 3 goals. Pick one word, and then pick the goal that you think is most important for you in the class you're in, or whatever. Okay, so pick a word, the key word out of each one, and pick the most important goal. Okay, go ahead. So let's take a look. What struck you about, what do you think, Laura? What's the key word for you in the first one there?
Expectations.
Expectations. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's no right answer in these, right? So Larissa, what about the second one? What? Safe. Yeah. You want, you want the kids. Okay, Mr. Myrtle is the kind of person where I can go and talk to him about something if something happened on the playground, etc. Okay. Vanessa, what about the third one?
Understand.
Yeah, okay, so you need to quickly find out about these kids, okay? So that, if you had this big Egypt unit that you did in your practicum and so on, and all of us, you want to figure out, okay, does that kind of work with this crowd of, 11 ESLs that I have in my class, right? So that you can, rush back to the Learning Resources Center and get something else if it's not going to work. Okay, so we want to find out quickly about the kids. So those are kind of our 3 things. And I was talking about the underlying goals. Well, these are the underlying goals of the first week. It's not about teaching reading. It's not about teaching math. Okay, what it is about advancing these 3 goals. Okay, and every activity that I have in here is one that I think advances us in one or more of these things. Okay, and the other thing is, what you want to make sure is, like, don't stress if the math lesson didn't get totally finished. Okay, what you want to concentrate on is, did you get them to follow directions, or whatever the thing is on this list? Okay, that's the most important thing. You can always do a bit of the math lesson next time. You want to really be focused on these goals. Okay, so these 3 goals are sort of the key. And I'll just mention right below there, you'll see Harry Wong's The First Week of School. This is the largest selling teacher's book in the English language, over 200,000 copies, and there's a reason. It's on edition 9 or 10 or something like that. It's good. It costs about $45 from Kids Books. I recommend you get it. Let's start off with what's going to be happening at 8:45 on Tuesday. Summer holidays are over. Where is the principal? Where do you think the principal would be 15 minutes before the bell rings on the first day?
Front doors.
Pardon me?
Front doors.
Right at the front doors or out in the playground. Exactly. Okay. So what that principal is doing is taking initiative, or you might say playing offense, right? Going out to where the kids are so that the kids know, or reinforcing if they've forgotten, that the summer holidays is over, and once you cross that sidewalk, school rules apply, right? So he or she is not going to be sitting at her desk waiting for problems to happen. And you want to do the same kind of thing, okay? So when the bell rings at 5 to 9, the kids are starting to come down the hall. You want to be out in the hall. You'll find some other experienced teachers out there as well, and you want to be right beside them, okay? So that the kids know you're one of the new teachers, and also you're going to learn quite a bit about school culture by just watching those teachers and kids interact, okay? By the way, if is no one out there, none of those teachers are, then you want to be outside still, but stay right by your class. You don't want to be responsible for the whole what's going on in the hallway because you don't really know the culture yet. Okay, so just stay by your class and get the kids to line up right outside the door, and I would have my door closed, okay? Then when everybody's lined up and kind of settled in, you can just, sort of like I did at the beginning, you can just sort of talk casually with them. Yeah, I'm Mr. Myrtle, I'm the new teacher here. And you tell them, you know, even if it was just your practicum, I taught in such and such a school, that kind of stuff, right? And then when you're ready to go, let's take a look at what you do, okay? I'm going to have my classroom set up so there's desks in rows, just like the 1950s, mainly because the information's coming from the front, okay? And on each desk, I'm going to have a large recipe card that looks like this, okay? One of these with a number on it, like this, okay? Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way through, okay? And then I'm going to have one of these small recipe cards in my hand with 1 to 30 also on there, okay? And I'm going to be at the door. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand so that if this was the doorway, I'm going to stand so that I can see out into the hall and also in the class. Okay, so if I was out here, I won't do it, but if I was out there, so I can see the kids and I can see the classroom, right? And that means the kids are going to have to come past me one by one. Okay? And as they come, I'm going to give 3 clear instructions, usually not more than 3 oral instructions at a time. Okay? So 3 clear instructions. I'm going to say, find the desk with this number on it, put your materials under the desk, and wait for me to begin. Okay? And I'm going to say that with each kid. If there's 2 or 3 kids, then they can hear it. I'm not going to, you know, say it with every single kid. But basically, I'm saying it to each of them. Okay? When they come in, if someone makes some noise and they say, "Hey Betty, how was that swimming pool last week, eh?" You know, something like that. Then I'm going to say, "Blue shirt, could you please come back?" Because I don't know the kid's name. Come back to the door, and I'm going to explain. When we come into the classroom, we need to do so quietly because other students are going to be reading and working well when you arrive. So I want you to find the desk with this number on it, put your materials under the desk, and wait for me to begin, okay? So I'm going to explain why, then I'm going to repeat what I just said, okay? And then I'm going to ask, can you do that? Yes. And then I'm going to say thanks and ask them to go. Now you need to know you've got about a 3-week honeymoon period, okay? 3 weeks. During that time, they don't know if you actually have horns and can kill them, right? So they're going to give you a little space and time. And by using this strategy, you know, the reason the principal was out there is because power is partly sort of reptilian. It's territorial. By being out there and playing offense, the principal was projecting her influence around that playground instead of in the office where no one would know about her, right? So you want what they're doing when they come into your classroom and you put them in a certain place with that strategy is you're saying, this is my territory and I'm going to put you here. Okay, it's not done in a mean way, but that's what's happening underneath. They're going to say, well, this teacher has some kind of strategy. I better, you know, they look like they're organized. I better be careful before I do, you know, etc. Okay, so if you turn the page over to page 9, you'll see on the top there some class rules. One of the key things that I like to think about is the poetry of instructions, like saying things clearly, like find the desk with this number on it, etc., so that even ESL kids can learn it. So I'm going to put these have been successful with kids. I'm going to put it on the board, but I might not even mention it. You know, I taught in the same school for a long time. I didn't even have to put them down because the kids already knew. But if you're new, you want to have them on the board. And if you do have to mention it to someone, then you're going to go over to them and sort of quietly say, see the second rule. I need you to follow that. Okay. So the less, you know, the quieter you can do it, and the more you're basically asking for their help in doing something as opposed to telling them to do something, and you give the reason for the rules, that's kind of your approach. And I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later. Okay? All right, let's go on. Now, so what we've just talked about is building a routine for entry, right? How you come in. When you come in, you need to be quiet. Once you go through the door, finish your conversation outside, come in and put your materials under your desk and so on. That's a routine, okay? What I'd like to suggest is that you fold back to the table of contents. It's just inside the front cover, and put down these other things, because all of these are routines that you need to just just make the list right here, so that when you're opening the book, you'll have this, you'll notice this, and you can, it'll remind you, okay, I've got to get organized on these things. So entry, quiet, washroom, and so on. Okay? Okay, so just stay on that page, because the next couple of things I'm going to talk about you can write right there as kind of reminders as well. So for each of these routines, I need to think about what happens. Like, you need to visualize what is going to happen when kids come in. What is it actually going to, how is it going to work? You know, we need to make sure there's not a bunch of chairs in front of the door, all those kind of things, so that things happen smoothly. So visualize how it's going to happen, okay? And then think about how I'm going to train that. How am I going to get, you know, teach and train that? How am I going to get them to do that, okay? And then finally, how am I going to maintain it during the year, so that in Easter, the routines are still there and they haven't totally collapsed and disappeared. Or let's say by November, they haven't collapsed and disappeared. Okay, so you got to think about each of those things for each of those routines. Okay, it sounds like a lot of things, and it is. So here's the process I think one should follow in teaching the routines. Okay, so first of all, we need to explain. We need to explain why. Okay, we're going to come in quietly, because at 9 o'clock we do buddy reading. And that means kids are going to be reading to each other. And if you're noisy, then they'll be distracted. They won't do their reading. So I need you to come in quietly. Okay. So you need to explain why. You need to demonstrate it. 55% of people are visual learners. Okay. So that means we need to show them what it looks like. So I'm going to get Bob and Betty, and I'm going to have them come in. And they're going to go into the cloakroom and put their coat there, and I'm going to stand at the edge of the cloakroom. I'm going to be doing like a play-by-play. Okay, Bob is putting his coat down. Now he's coming over and he's putting his homework down on this table. And now he's going over to his desk, and he's putting his materials in his desk, and he's getting out his book. And then now he's walking over and he's sitting down with his buddy, and they're starting to read. And then I'd go, you know, so I'm doing a play-by-play. The play-by-play is for auditory learners. About 30% of people are auditory learners. They learn best through hearing. So you want to have both things going on. So at the end of that demonstration, everyone should know what to do, okay? But you're going to need to rehearse it. Because even if they know what to do, that doesn't mean they're going to do it. It needs to be automatic. That's what a routine is, okay? So each time the kids come into the class, we want to be there monitoring so that they know what to do and they do it, okay? So all of these steps are important in building routines. And if you think of all of those routines, and that's not all of the routines, the entry, etc., there's a lot of teaching to do, and that's good. Because what that means is you don't have to start your social studies program on day 2. Like, you've got lots to do. Your lessons are going to take longer at the beginning because you're concentrating on those routines, okay? You know, one of the things there is going down the hallway, for example. So how do people go down the hallway? You know, I don't believe in marching kids down, so how are we going to do that? Okay, and I'll talk about that a little bit later.